Objects are everywhere in JavaScript, but that's not the type of object that we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about object literals. But what is an object literal? Well, that's the exact question that we're going to answer right now. So an object literal, generally just called an object, is a collection of data stored in a key value pair set. And these key value pairs can be accessed, changed, or manipulated however you see fit. It can be used to store information, access information, and even be changed over the course of the application's lifecycle. So let's see how we can first create our very first object. So to create our very first object, we're first going to save it inside of a variable. So we're going to say const obj for object, and we're going to set that equal to double curly braces, just like this. And inside of these double curly braces is where we're going to store our key value pairs. So let's go ahead and put something inside of this object. So let's say that this object is holding a person per se. And let's go ahead and just change the name to person, in fact. So let's say the first value in this object is going to be a name object. So let's just say name is our key, and then our value is going to be, let's say, Kyla. So let's go ahead and save that, and then we'll console.log that person object, and then let's go over here and inspect in our console, and you can see we've got an object here with a property called name, and then the value for that key is Kyla. And that's how you can create an object in JavaScript, but there's many more different things that we can do with these objects. Now we can also have different data types and data sets inside of here as well. So let's say we wanted to create a age value. So all we have to do is create another key and say age. And then the value for that can be whatever we want. We could say the age is 54, let's say. And if we save that, now we have an object in our console that has two different properties. We have an age property, which its value is 54. And then we have a name property, which its value is a string containing Kylan. But now that we've created this object, how do we access the values stored inside? Well, there's actually two separate ways that we can access the values of this object, and we'll check them out right here. So the first and most popular way is the dot notation. So we can say person dot, and then you can see this autofill. We can either select the name key or with the age key, and we can just go ahead and say person.name. And if we save that, you can see we've got Kyland printing out here. And we can actually do the same thing with age, and if we save that, we've got 54 printed out. Now the second way, and probably the least popular way, but is the most powerful way, is the square bracket syntax. Now, we can use the square bracket syntax to check for the keys. So if we say name and we save that, we can see we get the exact same result. And the same with age. Now, what's the difference between these two? Well, the square bracket syntax allows you to evaluate before you look for something. So let's say we've got something like this. So if we say const p name is equal to name, okay, we can actually evaluate p name inside of here before we access the key that is name. So whenever we save this, we can actually evaluate that p name to name before we actually try to access person name. But if you try to do that, say p name here, it's going to look for a key called p name, which doesn't exist. But using the square bracket syntax, we can look for that p name, we can evaluate that p name before we actually try to access the key name. Now, how can we add a new key value pair to this object? Well, there's actually a couple of ways. We could go up here where the object is defined and just say fav color is green, or we could add it dynamically. If we go ahead and remove this, and we remove this, and we remove this, so that we're just logging out person, we can add a new key value pair dynamically by saying person dot and the new key, so let's say fave color, and we can set that equal to, let's say, green. And if we save that now, we're just logging out person, we can see that we've got fave color green added dynamically to this object. And we can actually do it with the square bracket syntax as well. So we could say fave color, and if we save that, we've still got that exact same key and value stored inside of that object dynamically. Now we can actually edit things this way as well. So if we wanted to say name is equal to Joe now, and if we save that, we've got the object with the age 54, but the name has been changed to Joe. And we can do that again, we can do that with the dot syntax. We could say name is now equal to Joe, and it does the exact same thing. Now there's actually a very easy way that we can delete values inside of an object. All we have to do is use the delete operator, and it looks like this. All we have to say is delete, and followed by the value that we want to delete from the object. So we can say person dot name, and if we save that, we've now removed the name value from this object, and the only thing left is the age property. And we can even delete the age property as well. We can say person dot age, and if we save that, we've now got an empty object. Now I've gone ahead and overhauled our person object here, and that's because many of times you have to work with nested objects and arrays. So working with nested objects and arrays can be a little difficult for some new programmers. So let's go ahead and go through this and see how we can work with nested objects and nested arrays. So let's go ahead and access this favorite foods object, which contains an array. So to access it, we're just going to access person.faveFoods, and then to access the individual values inside of the array, we then have to access the individual indices. So we could say faveFoods index 0, and that's going to give us our first value here. And we could do that for index 1, which is cheeseburger, and we could continue to go on and go forth. So it would be person, which we're accessing this object here, then we're accessing the fave foods, and then we're going to access the individual values inside of this array. Now, if we want to work with the today's schedule object, first we need to access person dot today's schedule, and then we want to access the morning, and then we can access the specific indice inside of there. So we could say index 0, which is going to give us this first value in morning array of wake up. Then to access the night here or the evening here, we just have to replace this morning. So we could say night index 0 is planned for next day, and that is the first value inside of this night array. And that is about it for the basics of JavaScript object literals. Now, there are a few things that I did specifically omit from this video, specifically because they do deserve to be in their own separate video. But if you did enjoy the video, make sure you slap a like on it. Check out the full playlist, link is right next to me. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.